This is a public service announcement about the OGL, the open gaming license that Wizards of the Coast has released ever since 3rd edition for their Dungeons & Dragons franchises. And the announcement is very simple. It's this: you do not need the OGL to publish books or supplements that are compatible with Dungeons & Dragons. You don't now, and you never have in the past, and you won't in the future. The reason this is coming up now is because Wizards of the Coast is working on the 6th edition, or 1 DnD as they call it at the moment, and there is not a lot of clarity over whether it will have an OGL. The 4th edition of D&D didn't really have one, or it had one in a very different form, and they haven't really talked about what their plans are for the future. So people who create a lot of 5e content, a lot of supplements, adventure paths, and things like that are worried about their livelihood if this framework that Wizards of the Coast puts out is not going to be available to them. However, the reality is this: in the United States at least, it is not possible to legally protect rules or game mechanics for a game. You just can't legally protect them. Anyone can use those freely in anything that they want to publish. The only thing you can legally protect is the expression of those rules, the way that it was particularly written. So if you go into a D&D book and you just take a paragraph of their text and copy and paste that into your book, you're stealing the way that they have expressed a particular rule. If you write it in your own way, you're completely fine. The other thing that you can legally protect is trademarks, particular terms or names that a company might own. So for example, the Forgotten Realms, or Beholders, or Mind Flayers, right? Concepts that TSR originally, but then later Wizards of the Coast created and own as their own intellectual property. If you use those, you're going to get in legal trouble because that's not your intellectual property. It just isn't. But as long as you're not doing either of those things, there's really no problem at all with creating your own works that are compatible with D&D. So all that being said, you might start wondering, why exactly does the OGL exist in the first place? And that's a good question. If you read the OGL, you'll discover that it does not actually allow you to create works that use those trademark terms, and it doesn't even allow you to say that you are explicitly compatible with Dungeons & Dragons, which is why everyone says compatible with 5e, because 5e is not a term that Wizards of the Coast uses, and it's kind of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, where it's like, everyone knows what 5e means, we're just not going to say D&D. The only big advantage of the OGL at all is the fact that it has the SRD, which is the System Reference Document. This is a kind of stripped down version of the D&D rules. And if you have the OGL, the Open Gaming License, and you print that in the book that you're using, then you are allowed to take chunks of text from the SRD and just copy them verbatim into your own book. So if that's something that you need to do, then you need to use the OGL because Wizards of the Coast owns the creative expression of the rules that's in the SRD. However, if you don't need to copy all of this text the way that it's originally written, there's really no reason to use the OGL at all. When it was originally created for 3rd edition D&D, the OGL was really a kind of laying down of arms. This is because the previous owners of Dungeons & Dragons, TSR, were famously litigious. They would just sue everyone, often for no good reason, just to threaten people to stay away from the D&D brand, even when they didn't really have any good legal standing to do so. Once Wizards of the Coast took over ownership of the brand, they wanted to change the tone of the conversation. So they put out the OGL as a way of saying, we're not going to be suing you if you make stuff that fits with D&D. However, this OGL has been around for so long that it's kind of come back around again, where people now think that they need the OGL to make stuff compatible with D&D, when legally that's really not true. According to a poll that I ran on my channel, about 50% of people are totally unaware of this, which was very surprising to me. And it might make a big difference for a lot of 5e people who are, like I said, worried about their livelihood. As evidence that this is really unnecessary, the old school Renaissance movement has been making retro clones of different D&D editions and spinning off and making their own tweaked versions of it and making tons of supplements and adventures that are compatible with all the different editions of D&D. And it's been doing this for decades with no problem. Some of these supplements use OGLs, maybe the 3rd edition one or the 5th edition one, but some of them don't use any OGL at all, and it's never made any kind of difference. So hopefully this public service announcement has made a difference to some people. Hopefully it's put some of your minds at ease. You can keep making D&D supplements and putting them wherever you want. Drive through RPG, you could put them on itch.io, upload them to your own website, whatever. You don't have to put them on the DM's Guild, where when you do so, you give up 50% of your royalties as well as all rights to your own work. You do not have to do that when you're publishing material for D&D. There's a whole industry of D&D hackers out there who do not do that, and you can join them if you want to. Well, that's it. That's all I have to say. Hopefully it was helpful. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.